The diplomatic deception. The grand conclave of Nexus Prime glittered like a jewel suspended in the void, its crystalline spires catching starlight and fracturing it into 1,000 colors. Within its transparent walls, representatives from across the galaxy gathered in tiered rings, the powerful central species occupying the lowest circle nearest the speaking floor, while the lesser races were relegated to the upper shadows. Commander Elena Reyes stood motionless at the center of the chamber, her Earth Union uniform pristine against the alien architecture surrounding her. She felt the weight of hundreds of eyes upon her, some curious, most dismissive, a few openly hostile. The Earth Union extends its hand in partnership. Elena's voice carried throughout the chamber, unwavering despite the subtle sneers she could see on alien faces. We propose an alliance of equals, where resources, technology, and defense are shared without dominance or subjugation, where each civilization maintains sovereignty while contributing to collective security. A ripple of murmurs crossed the chamber. In the lowest ring, the Varaxi ambassador, 8 feet of armored exoskeleton and cold intellect, shifted forward. His mandibles clicked in what Elena had learned was amusement. Commander Reyes, the Varaxi spoke, translator nodes converting his clicks and hisses into standard language. Your species has barely mastered interstellar travel. You've held observer status for less than 2 decades, yet you presume to lecture the conclave on galactic governance. Elena maintained her composure. We don't presume to lecture, Ambassador Krask. We offer an alternative to the current hierarchy that leaves frontier worlds vulnerable to exploitation. You mean our rightful domains, rumbled Ambassador Dorn of the Telvari Imperium, his massive frame nearly twice Elena's height. Developing worlds require guidance. Is that what you call the resource extraction on Varlian Prime? Guidance? Elena asked, pulling up holographic evidence of strip-mined continents, or the conscription camps on Altair 7. The radiation zones on Proxima's moons. The chamber erupted in outrage. The conclave master, a serpentine Ilthian with scales that shifted through colors with his emotions, currently a deep crimson, raised his staff. You overstep, Commander, he hissed. Earth remains under probation. You have no standing to question established protocols. Elena didn't back down. We question what we see. The outer colonies suffer while the central powers prosper. In the upper tiers, representatives from the frontier worlds leaned forward. A Varlian female, her gray skin adorned with the ritual scars of her people, caught Elena's eye briefly. A subtle nod of acknowledgement. Earth proposes a summit of equals, Elena continued, open to all species regardless of technological development, to establish fair trade agreements, mutual defense pacts, and sustainable resource utilization. Enough. Ambassador Krask's voice boomed. This human speaks of equality while plotting insurrection. We've intercepted your vessels along restricted trade routes. Elena's brow furrowed. Our ships follow registered humanitarian corridors. We provide medical supplies and educational resources too. You provide weapons, interrupted Ambassador Dorn. You incite rebellion. False accusations, Elena replied firmly. Every cargo manifest is transparent, every mission documented. The conclave master's scales shifted to a deep blue. This session is concluded. Commander Reyes, the Earth Union's observer status is suspended pending investigation. You will be escorted from the chamber. 4 security drones detached from the ceiling, hovering around Elena. She stood her ground, scanning the tiered rings one last time. In the shadows above, dozens of representatives from frontier worlds watched silently. The Varlians, the Proximan refugees, the displaced Altarians. Elena gave them one last look, not of defeat, but of resolve. Remember what happened here today, she said, her voice carrying to the highest tier. Remember who offered partnership and who chose dominance. The guards closed in, guiding her firmly toward the exit. As she walked between the tiers, a small object was slipped into her hand, a data crystal no larger than her fingernail. She closed her fist around it without breaking stride, keeping her expression neutral. In the docking bay, Alina boarded her diplomatic shuttle, the UES Harbinger. Once in the privacy of her quarters, she examined the crystal. It contained coordinates and a single message: "We are listening. We are ready." 2 days later, the humanitarian vessels UES Mercy and UES Compassion traversed the neutral corridor near the Vega Drift. Both ships carried medical supplies, water purification systems, and educational materials for the struggling colonies in the Outer Rim. Captain Marcus Chen sat in the command chair of the Mercy, reviewing inventory manifests when the proximity alert blared. 3 vessels dropping out of FTL, reported his first officer, Samira Kari. Configuration matches Conclave enforcement cruisers. Broadcast our clearance codes, Chen ordered calmly. Open all channels. They're not responding, sir, Kari replied, tension evident in her voice. Weapons systems active. They're targeting. Chen hit the emergency broadcast button. Conclave vessels, this is Captain Marcus Chen of the Earth Union vessel Mercy. We are an unarmed humanitarian ship on a registered mission. We carry medical supplies in. The first blast tore through the engineering section, vaporizing the reactor containment field. Alarms screamed throughout the ship as systems failed across the board. Evacuate. All hands to escape pods. Chen shouted into the ship-wide comm. Even as he gave the order, he knew it was futile. The second blast struck amidships, splitting the vessel in 2. As the bridge section tumbled through space, Chen activated the black box recorder and the emergency subspace beacon. "This is Captain Marcus Chen of Earth," he said, his voice steady despite the fires erupting around him. "We came in peace. We offered aid. Remember what they did here today. If this is how you answer peace." He paused, looking directly into the recorder as the bridge began to decompress. "You'll regret this war." The transmission cut off as the Mercy's remnants exploded in silent fury. The Compassion, attempting evasive maneuvers, lasted only 30 seconds longer before joining its sister ship in oblivion. But the message had already been sent. The black box signal, designed to broadcast on multiple frequencies simultaneously, reached far beyond its intended emergency channels. It penetrated the communications networks of a dozen worlds, bypassing official filters and reaching civilian receivers. On Varlian Prime, refugees huddled around salvaged comm units heard Chen's final words. In the mines of Altair 7, laborers paused as the message played through hijacked speakers. In trading outposts and frontier settlements, people gathered to watch the footage. An unarmed humanitarian vessel destroyed without warning or provocation. "If this is how you answer peace, you'll regret this war." The phrase spread like wildfire, repeated in whispers across 100 worlds. The Conclave issued immediate denials, claiming the Earth vessels had been carrying contraband weapons, that they had fired first, that the footage was fabricated. But the damage was done. Those who had suffered under Conclave rule saw the truth for what it was. Earth had offered help and been destroyed for it. On Earth, the Defense Council convened in the underground chambers beneath the Rocky Mountains. The room was silent as the final transmission from the Mercy played on a central holographic display. Admiral Helena Diaz, Commander-in-Chief of Earth's military forces, stood with her hands clasped behind her back, her expression granite. "The Conclave has made their position clear," she said when the recording ended. "They've chosen their path. Now we choose ours." General Kira Zhang, head of Special Operations, nodded grimly. "Protocol Nightfall. Activated." Admiral Diaz confirmed. "All cells, all assets. It's time." Throughout the room, officers began sending encrypted commands through quantum channels, messages that would reach Earth operatives embedded across the galaxy. Not an invasion force. Earth lacked the numbers for that. But something potentially more powerful. Advisors, trainers, specialists who had spent years building relationships with the oppressed frontier worlds. In the shadows between stars, humanity's response began to take shape. Not with fleets and armies, but with whispers and promises and the spark of rebellion. If this is how you answer peace, you'll regret this war. The Shadow Resistance. General Kira Jung stood before a holographic map displaying the entire known galaxy. Red markers indicated Conclave strongholds, while green pinpoints highlighted potential allied worlds. Yellow zones marked contested regions where resistance was building. Protocol Nightfall is now fully operational, she reported to the assembled Earth Defense Council. Our advisors are in position on 17 frontier worlds. Training has begun on Varlian Prime, Altair 7, and Proximus colonies. Admiral Diaz studied the map with a critical eye. The Conclave's propaganda machine is working overtime. They're painting us as warmongers, claiming we initiated hostilities. The truth is spreading faster, replied Intelligence Director Nadia Okafor. Captain Chen's final transmission has become a rallying cry. Underground networks are distributing the unedited footage. The Conclave's heavy-handed censorship is only fueling suspicion. What about diplomatic channels? Asked Councillor Rivera, the lone civilian voice in the room. Severed completely, Admiral Diaz answered. The Conclave has declared Earth a rogue state. They've established a blockade at the Sol system's edge. Can we break it? Asked Rivera. General Zhang smiled thinly. We don't need to. Our assets were already deployed before the Mercy and Compassion were destroyed. We've been preparing for this possibility for years. On the remote plains of Varlian Prime, Lieutenant Sophia Rice, no relation to Commander Elena, crouched beside a Varlian resistance fighter named Tarak. His gray skin was covered in ritual scars, each marking a loved one lost to Conclave oppression. Target the junction box, Sophia instructed, pointing to a small structure connected to the massive communication relay. That will disable their security systems without alerting Central Command. Tarak nodded, adjusting the targeting scope on his rifle. And then we upload the virus into their network, Sophia replied. It will spread throughout their system, giving us access to their communications, their deployment schedules, their security protocols. And they won't detect it. Sophia smiled grimly. Not until it's too late. Around them, 24 Varlian fighters waited in silence, their bodies camouflaged against the rust-colored terrain. They had been resistance fighters before Sophia arrived, but disorganized, ineffective. She had taught them discipline, strategy, patience. Remember, Sophia said, addressing the group, we're not here to destroy. We're here to liberate. Every system we compromise, every supply line we disrupt, brings us closer to freedom. Tarak fired. The junction box sparked and went dark. Within seconds, Sophia had connected her specialized terminal to the relay's maintenance board. Lines of code flashed across the screen as the virus infiltrated the Conclave's network. It's done, she said, disconnecting the terminal. Let's move. As they melted back into the landscape, Sophia activated her secure communicator. Phoenix 1 to Nightfall Command. Package delivered. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. On mining colonies and agricultural worlds, in disputed territories and supposed Conclave strongholds, Earth's advisors worked with local resistance fighters to undermine the ruling powers from within. They didn't engage in direct combat. They didn't need to. Earth had spent years studying the Conclave's infrastructure, identifying critical vulnerabilities. A sabotaged power relay here, a compromised security system there. Small actions with cascading consequences. In the Central Command Center beneath Earth's Rocky Mountains, General Zhang watched as yellow zones on the holographic map began turning green. Not through military conquest, but through strategic liberation. The Altarian Mining Collective has declared independence, reported an intelligence officer. Conclave forces attempted to retake control but were repelled by local defense units. Using our tactics, asked Admiral Diaz, and our provided defense systems, the officer confirmed. Minimal casualties on the rebel side. Director Okafor entered the command center, her expression urgent. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Conclave. Ambassador Krasik is requesting direct communication. The Varaxi ambassador's angular face appeared on the main screen, his mandibles twitching with barely contained rage. Admiral Diaz, he began, your actions constitute an act of war against the Galactic Conclave. Our actions, Diaz replied coolly. Your forces destroyed 2 unarmed humanitarian vessels. You fired the first shot, Ambassador. Insurgencies are erupting across a dozen worlds, Krasik continued. We know Earth operatives are responsible. We merely provided advice, Diaz countered. The people fighting for their freedom are doing so by choice. Perhaps you should ask yourself why they're so eager to break away from Conclave rule. The ambassador's mandibles clicked furiously. The Conclave will not tolerate this defiance. Our combined fleets will. Will what? Interrupted Diaz. Bombard civilian populations. That would only prove what we've been saying all along about your tyranny. Krasik's eyes narrowed. This conversation is pointless. Prepare to face the consequences of your actions. As the transmission ended, General Zhang approached the Admiral. They're scared, she observed. Yes, Diaz agreed. They never expected resistance on this scale. They thought destroying our ships would intimidate us. Instead, it unified their opposition. On the bridge of the Earth flagship Defiance, Commander Elena Reyes, recently promoted after her return from the diplomatic mission, studied tactical displays showing Conclave fleet movements. They're mobilizing everything they have, reported her tactical officer, concentrating forces around their core worlds while trying to maintain control of contested regions. Elena nodded. Exactly as predicted. They're overextending themselves. A communications officer turned from her console. Commander, we're receiving transmissions from multiple frontier worlds. They're requesting formal alliance with Earth. Accept all requests, Elena ordered, and prepare a galaxy-wide broadcast. Standing before the camera, Elena straightened her uniform and composed her thoughts. This would be her most important message yet. To all worlds under Conclave rule, she began, her voice clear and determined. I am Commander Elena Reyes of Earth. You've seen what the Conclave does to those offering peace. You've witnessed their response to humanitarian aid. Now you're seeing what happens when people stand together against tyranny. She paused, letting her words sink in. Earth doesn't seek to replace the Conclave as rulers of the galaxy. We seek to end the concept of rulers altogether. Every world deserves self-determination. Every species deserves respect. Every individual deserves freedom. Across the galaxy, her message reached billions. In secret gatherings and public squares, people watched and listened. The Conclave calls this war, Elena continued. We call it liberation. They fight to maintain control. We fight to give it back to the people. Join us, and together we will build a galaxy where cooperation replaces subjugation, where trade replaces exploitation, where peace is more than just a word. As her broadcast concluded, reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Conclave outposts abandoned. Administrative centers occupied by local forces. Supply lines disrupted. Communication networks compromised. Not through overwhelming military might, but through the power of hope spreading from world to world. In the Grand Chamber of Nexus Prime, now half-empty as frontier representatives declared independence from the Conclave, Ambassador Krasik faced the remaining Central Powers. We must crush this rebellion immediately, he insisted, mandibles clicking anxiously, before more worlds fall. With what forces? Asked Ambassador Dorn of the Telvari. Our military is stretched thin already. Every action against civilian populations only drives more to the humans' cause. Then we negotiate, suggested the Ilthian Conclave Master, his scales now a muted gray of uncertainty. Negotiate. Krasik's voice rose in disbelief. With insurgents, with equals, the Conclave Master replied. Perhaps that was our mistake all along. As debate erupted among the Central Powers, a small transport approached Nexus Prime under diplomatic flags. Inside, Commander Elena Rice prepared for her return to the chamber where everything had begun. This time, she wouldn't come asking for permission or acceptance. This time, she would offer the conclave a choice between adapting to a new reality or facing extinction at the hands of those they had oppressed for generations. Behind her, the combined fleets of Earth and its new allies held position, not as an invasion force, but as a promise that the old order was ending, one way or another. If this is how you answer peace, you'll regret this war. The galaxy had answered, and the conclave had indeed come to regret their choice.